show up tonight. How is everybody doing out there? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing fine. So glad to have everybody here as always. I always start out by saying thank you so much for taking your time, a valuable thing, and spending a little bit of it, taking the time to watch this live stream and listen to the things that I am talking about tonight. I want to give a shout out, welcome to my good friend Scott here first tonight. Thank you so much, sir, showing up. Always appreciate support, really through thick or thin. It gets thin sometimes, but it gets thick too, so we can't complain too much. Um, yeah, while we wait for more people to join into the chat, I shall chat about things that happen here at Upstairs to the Right Studio. And by the way, I'm giving my microphone one more try. I did a little, sent it in, had a little work done on it. It's supposed to work better now. We'll see how it is tonight. We'll see. We'll see. All right, how's it looking tonight? Well, it's looking good. Yeah, it looks good. All right. Well, I was talking to Fern. Well, I reached out to Fern just to get a feel for an ETA on my part, caster. Hey, Mr. Watson in the house, Mr. All, welcome, gentlemen, welcome. And that'll be soon. And at the same time today, I closed a deal with a buyer here and my agent in Japan on a 82 Greco that I found for him in his shop. And I found that very funny because I'm negotiating, nice, really nice quality guitar on a regular basis. And yet I'm in the process of building a parts caster for myself, my luthier. Now, as you guys know, I had a hankering for one of those older Grecos or Tokais, but even then, it wasn't really going to meet the needs of something that I'm looking for sonically. So that meant I had to build it myself ultimately. I came to that realization, and I have been able to, because I took my time with it, do it at a very, very reasonable price. And still, though, when you read the room on YouTube and you see channels, hey, welcome. How are you doing? Welcome to the chat. Thank you so much for showing up. Welcome to you. When you take a look around YouTube, you start to see that guitar or gear related channels, even ones that for a time were pulling some numbers, are no longer really pulling those numbers anymore. It's sort of a time when the YouTube music scene is it's kind of at an all-time low, and that doesn't discourage me myself personally because, as you guys know, I do this really to inform. And if 10 people are getting this information and digging it, that's groovy. If it's 1,000 or in some case 150,000 on one of my videos, top one, that's even better. But I am glad at very least to be able to be here and do this. But it is discouraging though, but there is a trend. There's a reason behind it that I'm starting to notice. Um, Mr. Cheng, Mr. Chong, no, there's going to be no Soldier Boy here. Thank you so much. I'm not exactly the rap kind of guy. We're more of a guitar and, to be honest with you, rock of all types. Not just sore rock, but alternative and current shoegazer as well. Some of that stuff actually is pretty cool. I walked into a music shop and the band was here to play at the Paradiso. They were a shoegazer band. I was like, I really wish I had time to come check that out. I'd like to hear that live. But I heard a little bit of their stuff that they had on Bandcamp, interestingly enough. And I liked it, but no Soldier Boy. No, 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 no. You are as intelligent as the entertainment you consume. I'll put that one out there and let you ponder upon the meaning of that. But you see on you with guitar channels that there's a dropping off. However, where there is a steady increase are channels that discuss budget gear, or channels that talk about ways of modding your gear. I'm starting to get a click, a few clicks more with a lot of my modding, and some of the more budget guitars that I cover, like the Harley Benton. Every time I bring that bad boy out, it does well. My converting it to a P guitar, seemed to have resonated out there. And I thought to myself, that's interesting. That is very interesting because that tells you a couple of things. Mr. Rodriguez, how you doing, sir? Good to see you. Good to see you, Phil. Thank you so much for showing up tonight, sir. Cheers to you. Indeed. Yeah, when you're doing a YouTube channel, it behooves you, as I've said before, to try to read the room, and that's regardless of whatever it is your genre is. You need to kind of read the room, and the room is giving a thumbs down to most new gear releases. I thought that they'd be far more interested in some of Behringer's recent releases. They have that drum machines available. You can actually pick one up. But I decided against it when I heard what Roger Lynn had to say about it. But any views on it are kind of minimal, to be honest with you. Not that interested in it. It's not an expensive piece of gear either. It's $400 US. But other things, Squiers and Fenders, Harley and Bittons, and the one that got this kind of thought process going tonight, Fireflies. Um, Firefly has obviously did their yearly dump, and they're starting to get reviewed on YouTube again. And on YouTube again, just like a few years ago, those videos with featuring Firefly guitars. And I can't believe I forgot my drink tonight. I knew I was forgetting something. It's all right. I'll persevere through it. Is starting to take off. Those guitars were and remain to be popular. And I honestly think that there is a reason behind that. So I thought I would kind of explore that a little bit. Thought that I would shout out to Harry Beaver. We'll always give a shout out to Harry Beaver. I lived in Japan for 18 years. I'm familiar with the concept. So I myself personally just don't think too much about the more expensive guitars trending or amps, for example. People are releasing tube amps left and right, but just no kind of love. Um, this guy could have been president in a different lifetime. I appreciate that. I'll take it as a compliment. uh, I honestly think that the budget guitars like Firefly are taking off because of the economic conditions, or at least the economic um, viewpoint or perception out there. I thought I would dig a little bit into that tonight. And what I found was interesting data points that I thought I would share with you, talk to you guys with tonight. If I can, if you are indeed interested. Um, are expensive guitars these days head and shoulders above Fireflies? Or is it not even close? That was the kind of premise that now I will say as a disclaimer, living in Europe, obtaining a Fire guitar is very difficult. If I guess I always thought, well, I could order one through my brother, and then he could send it to me. So that might be something that may be coming up here. I might have to get my hands on a Fire. I tried it out with a Harley Benton, and like I said, that SG is working out for me. Not only is it a great guitar, but it's a guitar of interest out there. That actually, in this new economic climate, with a large percentage, I'd say 80% of the people out there at least would consider a Harley Benton now to be at the tip like that one. I think it's something like maybe not that one, but $399 in that area. So I'm going to explore that a little bit tonight with you guys. Now, the average price of a new Les Paul Standard has risen significantly in the past decade. However, I will say that they were still cheaper at the end of the Henry J era, if you look at that. However, um, making it less accessible for many players because of the current climate. It has been cheaper, but its price from that low to current now has gone up significantly. We're back here, guys. We had a little bit of a dropout here. Back here, guys. We had a little bit of a dropout here. Let me check and make sure. I think we're back. It looks like we're back. That's my internet provider. And how are we doing over here? Let me see. Still spinning. I know yeah, it's going. All right, good. I can continue. So, thank you, Scott. So, and thank you for moderating tonight. I appreciate it. It just made me really kind of reading the room on YouTube and then looking at some of these data points. I came to the conclusion that this is the time of the budget guitar. Talk to you on Sunday about a few things. One of them being one of the points I brought up is about YouTube reviews in general and how my pleasure actually, Scott. Thank you to have you guys. You know, honestly, just looking at the number of reviews that Firefly gets over a Behringer, which is it's apples and oranges there, but still, and some other guitars releases that have come out recently, nowhere near the interest as there is for those guitars as opposed to the Firefly. 2024 Fender American Pro costs around $1,700 compared to the $1,200 that I don't know how I had that stuck in my mind. According to the data I looked up, it was a decade ago. And are Strats holding their value in the secondhand market? And the answer to that is no. We've covered that before. We covered how many Strats there are, and we also talked about their resale value. Brands like Firefly offer guitars under $300 that receive high praise for their build quality and playability. Again, that people are not seeing that value to quality ratio that I always talk about. Am I getting good value for my money? Is the quality there? Does the quality come above actually what I'm paying for, adding a little bit of extra value? Now, I know that, again, Firefly had some issues, to say the least, with some fretwork that on their guitars, yet still people were praising them to high heaven. So until I get my hands on one personally, through the mechanism that I talked about through my brother, I will withhold complete comment. I'm sure that they listened to those complaints, and from what I'm hearing from the reviewers, they have responded to them and even made a few other changes as well. They are trying to be a serious contender, as much as a Harley Benton, for example. And for some reason, people seem to dig the designs of the Fireflies over Harley Bentons too. So there's that as well. Again, sometimes the way something looks, it could play for shit, but if it looks cool, especially if you're young, um, you know, we've talked about on this channel about budget guitars, the so-called budget guitars. Now, again, Ibanez and Tokai were producing high-quality, affordable copies of their American counterparts. And we've had many examples that we've shown here on this channel. And it is laughable now with us in 2025 to look at these late 70s, early 80s Grecos and Ibanez and Tokais and things of that ilk as being butt budget. As a matter of fact, they go for a premium now. They go for above, a Greco 750. That's its value in yen. We talked about it. It's about Nanamon Gosen. However, they sell for more than that now. Even if you take that Nanamon yen adjusted for inflation, they'll go for more than that in a lot of cases. So they were dismissed initially, but now, different story. Now, am I saying that's happened with Harley Benton and Fireflies 50 years from now? I don't know. I won't be around to see it. That's out of my wheelhouse there. I'd be moving Methuselah territory at that point, 50 years from now. But it'd be interesting to see, maybe, possibly. The evolution of quality instruments from cheap, poorly made guitars to today's high standard options has just exploded. It's exploded without any question. You know. Now, I honestly, you know, have lived from my first guitar that I bought at the Guitar Center in Hollywood to now. And the stuff I experienced through friends and other musicians growing up have lived this era of the cheap guitar up to where it is now. And again, it's interesting that I deal in these Japanese guitars, yet I still have chosen, again, because it's a configuration that I wanted. There is out there available, but not with the tone and the volumes the way that I wanted. So that was also consideration. Again, price as well. Uh, Trying to build something really quality for as cheap as possible is one of the goals of this channel. How to do that. But even with all of that, I still respect the quality of those Japanese guitars. A lot of respect for them. And going through the decades, the 2000s with the Chinese manufacturing, popping out the Squier guitars that went from questionable to where now the Squiers, they hold their own, and there's something that do well. Um, they would be the top end of the tier, where the Firefly would be where the 80% would be interested. Believe it or not, the percentage that are interested in the Fenders and the Gibsons and the things of that level is actually between 5 or 6%, really. So Yamaha's Pacifica series, launched in the 1990s, set a new standard for affordable guitars. I always say every time I pick one of those up, I don't know why I don't own one of these. They're cheap enough where you can buy it for the price of a Squier. Honestly, some of the cheaper Pacificas. And this has been going on since the 1980s. Of course, the Japanese, they knew what they were doing. They had, you know, a decade more experience in building these things by the time they got around to Pacifica. But again, this is the golden age, and it hasn't just started recently. It started in Japan and it kind of migrated around the world, I guess is what I would say. I'm just giving you examples of that. How we can go from the Ibanez to the Firefly is because of all the things that happened from Japan to Korea to China to Indonesia and all the advancements, mistakes, and things that were learned in manufacturing. Now, the model Firefly that I looked at their website, the one that I'm interested in is the FS338, which is very similar to a Gibson 335 at a fraction of the price. So that's the Firefly. If I'm going to build one, that's the one that I'd like to get. And so there is that. Mike, any experience with synth guitars? Yeah, yes, sir. Back in God, some thing that Jock and I did. We did some music for a play. We wrote music for a community play. And I actually had a strap on. God, what was that? Z1, ZZ1, something like that, man. Wasn't mine. I borrowed it, and it was just a keyboard with a modulation wheel on it and a pedal, and it was hooked up through MIDI to a Roland. What was that? A Roland rack mount. And that's all I can tell you about it. I used it for some parts in the play where I had to trigger some sounds, and that was my one and only experience. It worked. And that was 1993, 94, right before I first left for Japan. So I'm sure technology, I hope the technology has gotten better, but it worked. I kind of dug it. I have a Boss synth pedal that is pretty cool to play with. Yeah, I dig those. Yeah, that's a pedal that I'd be interested in just playing with myself. I've seen them. Um, Now, Cort is a company that's near and dear to my heart because in American neighborhoods when I was growing up, guitars were prevalent. I learned how to play bass on a Cort. I learned how to play. John McKnight had a Cort bass, and my good friend when I was growing up, and the most talented that I know, he could play every instrument flawlessly. I talked about him before, but Cort is a manufacturer that produces guitars for brands like Ibanez and PRS, for example. PRS SEs are made by Cort, interestingly enough. And of course, they have their Cort X series that they have. So they have decades of experience. Probably one of the reasons why the SE it does well because it's from a manufacturer that knows how to get the most for the spec that they're given. And of course, Squier, the classic vibe, is often compared, really, at least not, if not equally favorably, to the Mexican guitars. You know, you know. Again, you know, the options out there on the lower end are starting to catch up with quality and value of things on the slightly higher end. So a magical time uh, to really be in this kind of thing. Norman Paul, how many girls you got? Well, let's see. I got Hoshi. She's my 12-year-old Sheba. I got May. She turned 8 months just the other day. And then there's Ellie, my Singapore cat, pure Singapore. So three that I can name off. Now I'm tired of these shout outs. Clive, you got me once, but you're not going to get me twice. But you're bringing humor to the live stream, so you may stay, Clive. You're welcome to stay. Everybody else, yeah, we'll see. Many YouTuber reviewers highlight the surprising quality of Firefly guitars this week recently. Like I said, there's been a push by Firefly this week. And they're starting to note that the construction and the hardware are starting to get decent at the very least, is the general feel. And when you compare the features and quality to mid range and high end guitars, you know, for example, a Squier Classic Vibe Telecaster has a pine body and vintage style pickups. Whereas some players prefer this over the modern features of the Player series. In other words, some guys are saying, hey, you know, even though these Fenders are the newest, you know, greatest, you know, thing to come out of the oven, I kind of like the old lines, you know, that I can only really get with Squier. And that seems to be supported in the data as well. Um, Speaking of the data, a 2023 report by Music Trade Shows came up with a 35% increase in budget guitars since 2018, while sales of premium guitars have remained flat. I told you there is a small percentage of guys who are actually buying those premium guitars, who are actually buying the custom shops and the, this, that, and the other of the total amount of buyers. The large majority of guitar buyers are in that 80 percentile, and they're more interested in a Firefly that's decent or whatever Fender's put out. And a 35% increase in the, let's just round it off to 6 years, is significant. That really, and the fact that premium guitar sales have been flat, remain flat, continue to be flat. There's still a lot of people um, who are, like I said, they're they have deep pockets, and they will continue to buy. They are not buying at astounding rates. They're not buying at any kind of rate that is enough to give the numbers any kind of push, which is again the reason why I submit Gibson and Fender are moving away from the guitar market and more into, they're keeping their budget brands, budget in quotes, but they're moving into the lifestyle market for those reasons. Now, going back, I said, well, I kind of remember it different back in the early 2000s. During the 2008 financial crash, sales of budget guitars spiked, actually. And interesting, vintage guitars and premium guitars crashed to numbers. The vintage guitar market still has not reached its peak that it did back in 2008. Close, it's still not quite there. And I think that speaks volumes in itself too. That things were going to hell, but people were buying budget guitars. It spiked. It's an astounding thing. Now, the proliferation of online retail, Amazon, Tomon, the usual suspects, have really made it easier also and more convenient for consumers to get guitars, as opposed to getting in the car, going through traffic, in a parking space, and going to your local shop, guitar shop. Not a great thing. There's downsides, and we won't get into that tonight. But the convenience factor has made it so that access to budget brands that were previously difficult to find, Harley Benton made it easier for the cars to be accessible in the United States. I assume one of these days Firefly will do the same for Europe. But that actually, and I as a consumer would feel more comfortable with buying, and have been more comfortable buying a sight unseen guitar online below $400, let's say $500 at the most. Everything above that, I've got to go shop and hand on myself before I put down the cash. But that may be indicative of most people's thinking, which would be a clear indicator of why you're seeing that spike in budget guitars. People say, for whoever the Fireflies are going for, maybe it's worth giving it a shot. So I would say that the online thing is a big part of why it's had such a big bump as well. I think that, honestly speaking, it's not like when I was younger, like I said. And boy, I wish I could have kept some of those Cort guitars from back in the day, because I bet they're not half as bad as I thought they were. What they needed was proper setups and maintenance. And as good as musicians as all of us kids were, we weren't that. I never gave my first early guitars any kind of setup whatsoever. You know, I changed the strings, When they got crusty, that's when I changed them. But I bet you, if just the heights on some of the picks on some of those guitars that I thought sounded bad, I bet you it sound better. Adjust, the action. I didn't know how to set up action. I didn't know how to do any of those things. And the internet to show you how to do that. There's no YouTube video to go to learn how to do that. You wanted to learn how to do that, you had to either know somebody who knew how to do it, could show you, or if you were so inclined, go down and pick up a copy of a Guitar Player magazine at your local newsstand and read an article on it and say, scratch your head and be like, what does that mean? Because again, if you have no point of reference, it's a difficult thing to do, and it goes completely different era. Molester. Mr. Rogers in the house. How you doing, sir? Cheers to you. Welcome. Thank you so much for showing up, man. That's a funny one, Clyde. That's a funny one. Potato heads, that's a funny one. You guys are cracking me out tonight because you just been shout out my little brother, huge ass. You guys are funny tonight. We have some funny guys in the chat tonight. You have a sense of humor, you can stay. Nothing to offend me too much, but if you're doing that Tiger Woods Obama stuff, you got to go. You got to be smart like Clyde and make me laugh if you want to stay. Now, CNC computer numerical control machines have been around for a while. The precise cutting and shaping of guitar parts reduces production costs, less loss of wood. They can get more out of wood. They can get more out of their wood. Beat you to it. And improve consistency as well. For example, Harley Benton offers guitar premium features like roasted maple necks, stainless steel frets, which are considered premium on a lot of American guitars for under $500. Excuse me, I'm regretting that drink. I'm looking around to see if there's any liquids that I've left laying around here. And I'm afraid not. So there is that. Sorry, guys, my cat burst in. Cat highway. Now, compare today's budget guitars to a mid-range guitar from the past. For example, in 1990, a Mexican Fender Strat might have had quality control issues. Some of them did. Some of them. That's why I'm putting it as a might. They're not as bad as people make it out to be, but they're pretty rough. Whereas a modern Squier Classic Vibe offers comparable quality, to say the least. And the thing that's good as, in my mind, and maybe a little bit better than those early Mexican Fenders, is the fact that they have quality consistency. It's consistent. Good. Still got to do a little work on the frets. My Squier Classic Vibe Atelier needed fret work. But that's something that I can do. But I would say that it's still a better guitar than an early Mexican comparable Telecaster. So there's that. All right. Benny, good evening and hello. Hope you are all well. We are well. Thank you so much for showing up tonight. Scott, Mike, I recently became a big fan of Parliament. Do you play any funky music? Yeah. So you can go to if you have Spotify. I will make these albums available one of these days on Bandcamp. If you go to Spotify and look up Mike McWilliams and look up my first album, my first and my second album, I have songs like Fox in My Garden and some other ones that are super funky. Super funky. I had to prove, or I'm trying to think of the title. I can't think of it. Sorry, guys. But if you go to bank, I'm sorry, to Spotify, look up Mike McWilliams, and you can find it. That bit was something to give. House has gone down. I'm looking out for something that will turn it out. Well, I can't wait till it's just you and me. That song. I can't wait because I love the way you shake it, baby. My weekend lover. So check out that track. Check out that track. That's the one. I like that one. That's some funky stuff. Fox in Your Garden is one of my funkier tunes. I really laid into that one. And that's the fun because I wrote that song. It is the one and only tune that I wrote when I lived in the UK. And it's literally because I was looking out my window from my flat and I saw a fox go through the garden. And that, of course, got my mind going. But that's a funky track. um, so consistency, guys. Consistency. Now that doesn't go just for whatever kind of genre of rock you want to go for, metal as well. The Jackson GS22 or the Ibanez GRD series are great budget guitars if you want to do metal. As a matter of fact, if I did metal, I'd go for the Jackson JS22 to be frank. And so that's just, whatever your genre is, there are bargains to be. I looked that up because I said, well, you're always talking about, well, what about metal? We won't get into jazz, but well, jazz is covered by Harley as well. They're in Firefly, apparently, again, like I said, they're 338. So, regardless of the genre you're into, there are options out there that I think that will do the job until you get a professional gig that's paying you. These are the options they want to go with because you can grow your skills, grow these guitars will grow along with it. And aside from doing what I'm because I've moved past brand names and I'm getting into this idea of, well, what about this configuration, how will this sound, and this is where I've gone into the insane mode, which basically leads to parts casters of my guitar journey. But you know what, guys? It's funny with that neck that I got. Uh, I had, again, I didn't have was what was available at that price. Uh, I wanted to have a rosewood fretboard, and one thing that I have discovered about myself is that I like playing guitars with rosewood fretboards on them. Whereas the bare neck is an option that even if it was available, I thought I wouldn't go for. It's just a preference thing, and again, rosewood fretboard, HH configuration, one tone, one volume with that tone only controlling the bridge pickup, leaving the neck pickup wide open. That's something, a three position switch, not a five position switch. That's not something that's available out there on the market. I had to build that myself. And I had to find the parts to build it. Now, a lot of guys have built those, but the old way was to remove it because the volume knob got in a lot of people's way. They didn't like it. So they removed that, put a plug there, and then move it, the circuit down to just as I described. Fortunately, as I said, I could find in that configuration. But even there, okay, that's taking an old Squier SE and grading it to my configuration of preference that I think works for me, that I'd like to play. And I still did it at a fraction of a cost of a Squier, a new Squier, because this was an old SE that I got. And so, you know, budget guitars can also extend in this case again to a parts caster that you may decide to build. That would be your guitar. A lot of guys, I'm starting to see a lot of YouTube guitarists. I'm like, oh, what are they playing? a lot of the times they're playing Strat bodied guitars, but they're not Fender, Squier, or any of the other usual stuff, or even Tokai, even any of the jazz ones. They're actually some brands, smaller brands, private brands, or in some case, they've got nothing on the headstock. They're parts casters that these guys are playing. It sounds gorgeous, wonderful. So again, this ends out in terms of budget, and I just want to expand your thinking to not just what you can buy in the store, but what you can buy in the store and modify. Hi, I'm new here, by the way. Rom says, "Welcome, Rom. What's the similarity between an orphan and a blind kid? They both can't see their parents." That's a good one. I guess the troublemaker probably do. That's a fun. Okay, you made me laugh, Rom. You can stay. Jokes are always welcome. That was a good one. So now, again, budget guitars today offer unprecedented value, in my opinion. And if you shop around, keys to shop around, and if you're buying online, be aware, like I said, you could get the good one or you could get the dud. I'm quite sure that the guys who received the free Firefly guitars this week um, got primo ones, handpicked. The one that you get will not be. Now, if the reviewers are accurate and they have upped their game in terms of their finish work, then it should be okay. Time will tell. But they do offer a viable choice for beginners and seasoned players alike, to be honest with you. There's a lot of cats like me who are starting to say, hey, you know, it's funny the Partcaster I'm building it with, a recording frame. Like, how would this sound with a recording? Um, and 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 what I need to do with recording. So I'm starting from that kind of viewpoint too, which is always a healthy place to start with. Final thoughts here are actually back to something that I haven't touched on in a while that I thought I would slip in here since it's been a minute is considering the sustainability of, again, so producing so many new guitars. Um, I think that sustainability as a trend really rides with economic conditions. When things are going well, sustainability is a great thing to preach. However, when things go south, that usually goes out the window. And I think that that's something that we should always keep in mind is, again, we wanted, it's a good thing that less guitars are being produced, honestly, because there still are out there secondhand enough guitars to give one to every man, woman, and child. Tiger, bush elephant, porcupine, and spider a guitar on this planet. There's a lot out there. We lost some great with fire, unfortunately, in Los Angeles, but they are still out there. Mike, gold age of low budget guitars is right now. Laugh LMO laugh my. I don't know what LMO stands for. Well, Mike, LMO. What is LMO? I'm missing that one, or I'm too tired to figure it out. The coolest thing about grunge and punk is how cheap some of their gear is. What does LMO stand for? Anyway, yeah, Scott, I agree. Um, the Squires, my own. Oh, there you go. Is right now like my own. Okay. Um, Green Day, Squires, a lot of the punk guys, even in the early days, they were playing, student guitars, which are now expensive, like early Gibsons, Little P90 guitars like back then, those things were super cheap. Now they're going for crazy money, but they were cheap budget guitars. They were junk guitars. There was no glamour based on the instrument. It was a quite opposite deal from especially in the late '70s. From the earlier '70s when you had the rock gods. Oh, Jimmy Page is playing a Gibson, or Clapton switched over to Fenders. They didn't get that. It was the anti that. It was the anti that. So there's that. And I maybe in some ways experiencing that, growing up with that music and living it and seeing what it was, even though I was a young teenager, barely a teenager. I turned 13 in 19. Um, it still is there, kind of with me. That's probably why I'm where I'm at right now. Probably one of the reasons. So, again, budget has nothing to do with the music that's produced on it. That's up to the player. Got a Partratelli Squier body, USA Electronics, Mexican maple neck. Yeah, I can't wait for Fern to finish. He's doing. I don't. I did all the fretwork on it. I did all the thing. Put the tuners on. Did all those things to this neck, um, and I think it's going to be a beauty. Body again is a 2003 Squier SE body. Had to route it out a little bit to put it to HH configuration, but all the pots, all the wiring, now the neck, everything on that is primo. The tuners, bone nut. I had him put a bone nut. Got rid of that plastic nut and put in a bone one. That's a primo guitar. Again, still not for a lot of money, and it's going to be my primary recording guitar. As a matter of fact, as soon as I get it, I've got my pedal board here and staying up here because I'm still recording. I'm gonna plug it in and do the guitar solos on these two tracks that I laid the bass down the other day, and that should be relatively quick because I've been running it through and I've been kind of demoing it out on my Harley Benton. That again, a great rhythm guitar, but for playing for solo playing, no, it's just not that. I don't like those jumbo frets. It's like speed bumps. 3 chord Dave, welcome, sir. Welcome to the conversation. Thank you, Dave. God bless you, sir. Good to see you. Been thinking about you, man. Yeah, I'm just winding it up here. I've just been talking about budget guitar, and this is the time. This is the age. And if you're so inclined, and if you don't care, and you can do most of the work yourself, get a few tools, something like this, if you're buying budget guitars, you should own one and you should know how to use it, because you're going to need it. But it will transfer. It will be one of the tools that you need. You need a few. Yeah, I just got a new one in the other day. I don't know what I did. That will transform that budget guitar into a solid player. Solid player. And Raw Dog Randy. I didn't see what he said there, Scott. It must have been bad if you deleted it. Like his name, Raw Dog Randy. It's certainly advertising to the girls what he's all about. Well, Mom, he said his name was Raw Dog. How did I supposed to know I'm pregnant? I think that we live in the golden age of budget guitars. This is the rise of budget guitars, like I said in my title and in my description. And the stats, again, to prove that out. NAM, again, their 2023 survey showed a 35% increase over on budget guitars, while high-end guitars were stagnant. And major retailers indicate a surge in popularity for brands like Firefly and Squier. Especially they're finding in their data points among new players and hobbyists. And all analysts industry agree that advancement in CNC machining and quality control have narrowed the gap between budget and premium guitars to the point, like I said, where a lot of the big name brands are moving into home living lifestyle. You know, they'll keep their budget brands going because that's their bread and butter. And again, you have to consider, you have to read the room. So I started this conversation out tonight talking about reading the room, and the room on YouTube seems to read that the more affordable your guitar is, you are discussing, in some cases openly pitching, the more eyeballs you're going to get on it. And the guys who are showing the more, obscure vintage stuff or vintage stuff, certainly the more newer released premium stuff, the eyeballs are dropping away. They're dropping away. And the stats prove that out. Stats prove that out. That budget guitars are increasingly growing in interest. Now, I reached back to 2008 during the Lehman crisis in order to point out to you that budget guitars spike during that period. So, if we are going into an economic downturn, do you think that this time will be any different? What percentage is Epiphone to Gibson and Squier to Fender in terms of sales? I will look that up. I don't have that data point. But again, their sales on their Epiphone brand by this rough data point, what I can withdraw from that, torture the data to confess to anything. But what I can draw from it, surmise from it is that the majority of their sales will be on the Epiphone side, as opposed to the Gibson side, and the Squier side, as opposed to the percentage would be higher than the Fender side from these data points. At least roughly 35% more. So, yeah, we live in a golden age. And if economic downturn continues, you will not see a dropping off in interest in cars. If it is something that you feel the need to invest in, you could probably do the surety that it's okay. That it's probably financially going to be a sane thing to do. And in terms of the quality value that you'll be getting, you'll probably be happy, satisfied. Even more so, again, if you pick up a few Luthering skills, if you learn how to level crown and finish polish your learn how to file your nuts. That always sounds weird when I say it, but you know what I mean. Set your intonation correctly yourself. If you learn to do those things, and there's no excuse. I had somewhat of an excuse when I was growing up, but now there is none. Um, if you do those things, then I think you'll probably find that your wallet, again, I always end these conversations every live stream by saying your wallet will be happier if you do this, if you take this under consideration, if you will. And certainly from you can swap the pickups, if you want to put in, Primo set of pickups, you can do that. Or, hell, GFS, like I said, those pickups that I got, those P90s are actually decent. They sound great. $35 a pickup. Okay, so you can play that. You can do that. You can do that gas trip. On a budget. You don't have to run out and buy the latest Seymour Duns or Gibson pickups like I did, or try. I went through 3 sets of vintage '70s pickups. you know, Super '70s. All those things. No, 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 no. You can find budget pickups now these days that you can put into these budget guitars. If you don't like the pickups that are in them sound, again, a few adjustments there, you might find they're not so bad for cheap as well. So it's a golden age, guys. It's a golden age. If this is your wheelhouse, now you're spot on. you know. So you can't really go wrong, and the trend is moving in that direction. So when you're doing YouTube, you kind of read the room, like I said, and the room is moving in that direction. And to be frank with you, I was going to do a video showing how I took the. Remember, I shot it, showing you how I removed those stickers off those very expensive Fender basses that that I just got the invoice for finally. But I digress. But I changed my mind because A, there's 1,000 YouTube videos out there on how to remove stickers, and B, it's on an expensive base. And reading the room tells me that that's something that's not of interest. When I get my parts caster, the next set and done on that, and Fern, he knows I like my guitar setup, so I don't even have to do that. Once he gets all that done, uh, then I think that's a far more interesting subject that will garner more interest reading the room again than you know showing you how to take stickers off the back of expensive basses. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to shelve that because it's just I'm not going to put it out because I read the room, and the room tells me, hey, the parts caster is an interesting story, and it is. And I'm even going to break down, show you what I put into that exactly, including Fern's cost, and show you that doing a lot of the work myself, I saved a lot of money. So I'm looking forward to that video as soon as it gets done. Learn how to play Van Halen's Jump really, really well, and you might make it. Wait a minute, I missed something. When the sun goes supernova, I'll have my guitar to save me. Van Halen is too hard for me. Yeah, jump. I'm running that through my mind. I can play I can definitely play the synth solo, the Oberheim solo, the OBX solo. I can play it. That I can part the guitar parts, the rhythm parts. I could probably comp, but yeah, other than that, nah. There's a reason why Eddie was what he was. The reason Eddie was Eddie. So I can co-sign on that too myself, Scott. Something to consider, guys. Something to think about tonight. I put it out there for your consideration. It's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, I've moved into the mad professor phase, so don't pay any attention to me. Yeah, I really am because I'm like, well, let's experiment now because and to make those experiments, the only way you can do it is if you build it yourself. The only way you can do that, in my opinion, on budget is to learn how to do a lot of the work yourself. So you kind of go full circle with that. And so, yeah, I'm in my mad, what we'll call Mike's mad professor phase. So let's see how this HH configuration Squier, originally parts caster, turns out. Um, yeah, it'd be interesting. So I hope that's coming up between now and Sunday. I hope to have it maybe this weekend. We'll see. So I can have live here on the Sunday show. Oyasamina Sai, good night. Arrivederci to all of you. I really enjoyed a lot of the jokes. Um, who is that was cracking me up tonight? Um, who's that? I'm sorry. I can't see it now. There was somebody here that was Clive. Clive. Clive, you cracked me up tonight. You win the prize for making me laugh. I appreciate you even dropping in and just, fucking with me. But it was funny. And to all you other guys, thank you so much for taking the time to show up tonight. Somehow I made it through without any libation, but I will go have a drink right now. An hour of solid talking is rough on the vocal cords, but I made it. The mic seemed to have worked well tonight. I didn't get any complaints about that, so maybe it is fixed. Who knew? You guys take care. I will see you all soon. God bless. Oh, wait a minute. What am I missing? It's my birthday today. Can you shout out my name? It's I'll shout out Amanda Hug and Kiss. Hey, Dave, man, thanks so much for showing up, brother. It's good to see you, sir. And to everybody else, you guys take care. Until the next one. Bye bye.